So, if you've been keeping up with Hailey LeBlanc, you've probably noticed her makeup has had a total glow-up. Well, today we're going to break down her brand new, super in-depth makeup tutorial and give you a clear, step-by-step guide to her updated signature look.
And yeah, she's not kidding around. With that one sentence, Hailey is basically telling us to forget everything we thought we knew. This isn't just a couple of new products. We're talking a complete reinvention of her entire approach to makeup.
All right, so here's our game plan for deconstructing this look. First, we'll touch on the philosophy behind it all. Then we'll get into the skin prep, which is crucial. After that, we'll build up that flawless base, break down her iconic eye look, and then of course, add those all-important finishing touches. So before we even pick up a brush, we gotta get into our mindset. Hailey actually grounds her whole routine in one core idea that she thinks is the real foundation of any look. You know, it's pretty interesting. In her videos, she makes a point that you almost never hear in makeup tutorials. She believes the most important part of beauty isn't the makeup itself, but just hygiene. It really frames the whole thing as a form of self-care, which is a cool perspective. And this whole hygiene-first idea goes beyond just skincare for her. It's about the full experience, and that includes scent. She talks about 4 really different fragrances she loves, from earthy ones to sweet, caramelly ones. It just shows that for her, a personal scent is a huge part of her whole beauty ritual.
Okay, let's get into the actual application. Now this is maybe the biggest shift in her whole routine. Skin prep used to be something she didn't even do, and now, in her own words, it's the only thing I think about.
Her method is all about layering on that hydration. She starts with a serum that has that slimy texture, like a snail mucin, to really tighten things up. Then she goes in with another serum and finally locks it all in with a relief cream. But here's the absolute game changer. She waits a full 5 minutes. That pause is her secret weapon against that annoying pilling that can ruin your foundation.
All right, the canvas is prepped, so now it's time to build the base. And this is where she gets really meticulous, carefully layering cream and powder products to get that sculpted but still super glowy finish.
So first up, she takes the Ilia skin tint and really works it into her brush before it even touches her skin. Smart. Then she goes in with a Fenty contour stick, and this is where you really see her technique shine. She blends strictly upwards on her cheekbones. It creates this amazing lifted effect.
And then we get this super relatable moment where she just pauses. She starts wondering out loud if her bronzer is too dark and questioning if she has cool or warm undertones, the whole gold versus silver jewelry debate. It's just a great reminder that even a signature look has moments of uncertainty. Now this right here is a major key to the whole look. She used to put concealer on first, but then her blush and bronzer would get all mixed in and muddy up her under eye. So now she applies concealer after all her color products. The result? A way cleaner, more defined look. It's kind of like underpainting but in reverse. So smart!
Now, to set everything without killing that glow, she uses a tiny little brush to precisely place powder only where she gets shiny. Then she lightly dusts a powder bronzer and blush over the cream versions before locking it all in place with a good setting spray.
All right, now we're moving on to what she calls her absolute favorite part of the routine. And let's be real, it's the part that gets the most comments. This is where the look really becomes Hailey. But before she even thinks about eyeliner, she sets the whole stage with 2 things. First, her bleached brows. She loves them because they're low maintenance and they don't fight with her eye makeup for attention. Second, she uses this little product she found on TikTok to dot on some soft, diffused faux freckles.
Okay, you guys, this is the star of the whole show. Her holy grail, her favorite eyeliner in the world, is a $2 Wet n Wild gel liner. It's in this amazing burgundy shade called Brick that defines our eyes without being as harsh as a black liner. And yep, it's called breakup proof for a reason. She says it's totally waterproof. Creating this wing is a whole process. It's super precise. First, she tightlines just the outer part of her upper lash line to build some depth. Then, she draws a little line straight out. Step 3 is connecting that line back to her lash line to create the wing. And for the final touch, she draws that sharp little line in her inner corner and gives it a soft smudge. And right as she's carefully connecting all these lines, she has this little aha moment and just says, makeup is like literally a science. It's perfect, right? Because it totally captures how precise and almost architectural her eyeliner technique really is.
So when it comes to mascara, her goal is pretty much the exact opposite of what most people want. She's not going for that feathery, separated look at all. In her own words, I love a clumpy lash. I'm a clumpy lash girl. She wants bold, thick, impactful lashes.
So how does she get that look? Well, she uses this really cool two-mascara trick she learned from her sister. First, she grabs an older, drier mascara and really wiggles it into the roots to build up a ton of volume. Then she takes a newer, wetter mascara and coats the tips for length. And for her final signature move, she gently pinches the inner corner lashes together to create this kind of doll-like effect. Okay, we are in the home stretch. Let's talk about the finishing touches. Just a couple more key steps that are going to pull this whole signature look together.
For her lips, it really all comes down to one hero product, MAC's Lip Liner in Stone. It's this perfect cool-toned brown, and this is where that whole debate about color theory comes back around. She figured out that this shade just works way better with her skin tone than the warmer browns she used to use.
So, when you boil it all down, what makes this look so Hailey-ish? Well, it's these 5 things, right? It's that lifted, sculpted base, the barely there brows, that super sharp burgundy wing, the bold, clumpy lashes, and finally, that perfectly balanced, cool-toned lip. And all of this kind of leaves you with one big question. Hailey calls her liner application a science, but she's also questioning our own choices and discovering what works along the way. So what do you think? Is the perfect makeup routine a strict formula to be followed, or is it more of an art form that you're constantly discovering for yourself?